who is Sean Harrington?
So Sean Harrington is a senior software engineer in the Patriots player personnel department. And he's interesting to me because he's actually the only employee in any personnel department with the job title engineer. Now there are probably, some teams have developers and programmers, so there are things similar to that in other teams, but he's a software engineer, and he actually invented a football software, or created a football software when he was in college at Tufts, and that was his senior thesis project. And I would assume went a long way in helping him get hired by the Patriots. In June 2015, he had offers from Google and from the Patriots, and he ended up choosing to work for the Pats. So that's the gist of who Sean is. And it was I just kind of stumbled upon his name in the media guide, and I thought it was an interesting position because it's really the personnel department is all scouts, and then they have a software engineer. So I just wanted to learn a little bit more about who that person was. And I hope if you read the story that I made some sense, and I taught you a little bit about Sean Harrington.
Yeah, we have the story up right now on right on the homepage of MassLive and at masslive.com/patriots. So you just found the guy's name in the media guide and decided to poke around?
I found his name in the media guide, and then I just was looking online, and I came across his LinkedIn page, which is where he noted at the bottom of that page that he had done this football software project in college. So that's when I decided that, wow, this could be pretty interesting. Like, this guy, this is a software I haven't heard of. And even, there was another company called Auto Scout working on the same kind of software, which basically the point of it was to automate the whole process of coaches breaking down film by hand. And there's some technology that makes it easier, but basically coaches have to watch and record alignment, what happens in the play, route depth, things like that. So Sean's idea was to eliminate all of the manpower. He estimated it took like 16 hours for coaches, his college coaches, to do that. And if you could automate that whole process, it could give coaches a lot more time to focus on strategizing rather than dictating and recording data. So once I saw that he had invented or created a software like that, I thought he was a very interesting character and someone who, it's always fun to learn about the behind-the-scenes people of the Patriots. That's one of my favorite things about covering the beat. It's just like the mysterious element of it all. So I thought Sean was a perfect character for a story like that.
Yeah, I remember you wrote a story a little while back about the interview process for Patriots coaches and mentioning that there are times where scouts were just write down every time the quarterback looks to his right before a play and stuff like that. So the workflow sounds crazy for the Patriots. Now, one of the first things you mentioned in the story is that the Patriots will not say what Sean Harrington does. When you started asking around in New England, what kind of response did you get from the team? Were they like, because as you mentioned, there's a certain mystique with the Patriots because they don't talk about anything.
No, they don't talk about anything, especially like personnel staff. I basically requested to talk to Sean, and I was not able to. I've never met him before. I've never talked to him. I was not able to. I requested to talk with Bill Belichick for the story. Was not able to. I tried. I even asked a few players if they knew of him. They didn't really seem to know who he was, and I asked people who had worked previously for the Patriots, just maybe they would be willing to talk about him. And I ran into some trouble getting people from inside the building to describe what he does. So really, I relied mostly on his friends and people from college in the Tufts computer science department who did similar things to him and were somewhat aware of what his job was in New England. So it was as you'd expect when you're trying to report on something that's potentially giving away an advantage. It's something the Patriots do that maybe other teams don't do. Obviously, Bill Belichick and the Patriots wouldn't want someone to be writing that story. So I wouldn't say I had.
He said writing the story.
It wasn't a surprise. I would say the Patriots, I did get to clarify a few things with Sean just because I wanted the story to be 100% accurate. So I forwarded some emails to the Patriots PR staff. They gave them to Sean, and then he gave the answers back to me. Like he did have a quote in there about why he chose the Pats over Google.
Oh, at least like he knows like who you are, so it's he knows why he's suddenly famous today.
Right. Yeah. I wanted to make sure that he knew that this, you know, if he wasn't, I'm sure he heard that I was talking to his friends, but I wanted to make sure he was aware that like I'm writing this story and it's, you know, this is why I'm writing it. Basically, I explained to him.
Yeah, and it's really one of the most interesting parts about the Patriots is because ever since the Belichick era began in 2000, there's part of the Patriot way has been basically don't talk about anything, keep everything in house. And while that probably comes off as an advantage for the team, they get to be very tight knit and keep distractions out. It definitely creates a sort of mystique. And do you think that the Patriots, especially, there's a unique interest in just finding out like what's inside? What are they doing in there? What kind of dark secrets does the Wizard Belichick have going on in Gillette Stadium?
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes it's like a mind game. Like maybe we think it's way more mysterious and they're doing crazy things there than they actually aren't. I mean, probably with most things they're doing stuff similar to what all NFL teams do, but they do have a few, like the Ernie Adams position wasn't really a thing that other teams had. And, you know, depending on what Sean and the software team there is actually working on, they might be doing things that way a little differently than NFL teams in other places. So there is that mystique. And to me, part of the Patriots love to amplify that. They love to just build it up. And by kind of leaving us guessing with some of these background characters, it only increases I think Belichick likes that. That's part of like his shtick. Like he's, you know, that's part of how he wants to be known is like he kept everything so locked down and they had all this mysterious stuff going on behind the scenes. And obviously they don't want that to be interpreted like they were bending the rules in any way, but I think that they like the mystique of the whole team, the aura of it all.
Now, one of the things we do know about Bill Belichick is that he has some trouble with technology, specifically tablets, maybe as spiking one or two on the sideline. What kind of sense do you get in regards to how the Patriots approach technology, like tracking systems and watching film or stuff like that? It was like, because Belichick comes off as an old school guy. Do you think they do a lot of forward-thinking stuff like this?
Yeah, I think they do, because I think that's why they have that. I think that's why they have the position. And Sean Harrington, and he had noted on an open source blog where you're sharing ideas with other engineers and developers across the world that he runs a software team for the Patriots. He's the only one listed in the guide. NFL rules you don't have to list everyone. You can basically do it however you want. So it seems to me that he has a group working under him as well, or for him. So I think that they are pretty forward thinking, and that I don't know if Belichick himself is technologically savvy, but he knows the value in that. And again, I think that's part of his shtick. Like he likes to play up that he can't get his car clock fixed after daylight savings time. Like he likes to do stuff like that. He likes at press conferences. He loves to dismiss the ideas of like advanced statistics and analytics. He pretends that he doesn't know what they are. That's just part of the act that he puts on. But behind the scenes, the Patriots are as advanced, I think, as any franchise in the NFL. They're always it's not the main reason why they've consistently won, but they always are a step ahead with any little edge you can get. And right now, you just look across the NFL, there's just a technology and data explosion happening right now. There's so many companies that provide different services to teams, and I think the teams that can best utilize those services and figure out the way to best manage that data and apply it to something meaningful, those are the teams that are going to be able to gain that small advantage.
Yeah, it's one thing I want to ask is, do you know what else a team like the Patriots will do in terms of incorporating technology like this? Like I know that Chip Kelly, when he came to the Eagles, was famous for a lot of like tracking players' temperatures and like speed and stuff. Do you know what the teams are trying to do nowadays in terms of incorporating technology to get more data?
Yeah, I don't know if the Patriots are one of the teams that. So like the next gen stats in the NFL, those come from Zebra technology in the NFL of a partnership. They place chips on the shoulder pads of players during games, and it tracks the player's movement during games. It can record top speed, acceleration. It can record where the player alignment too. So it does some of the things similar to what like Sean's program Auto Scout was doing. And then that data though is not, the teams can only access their own data. Like the Patriots, for example, can't see the Jaguars data from games. What teams do also is they purchase the tracking chips for their own in-house practice use. And I'm not sure if the Patriots are one of the teams that do that. I read a story that said about 1/3 of the league does that. So players wear those chips during practice, and that's a way for teams to monitor player workload, fatigue. There's even a tag that they can put on the ball that basically measures the velocity of the ball, and it can kind of pinpoint when a quarterback starts to suffer arm fatigue. So there's all these sorts of different tracking mechanisms that are becoming popular within the last couple of years.
Yeah, and I had a chance to read the story before it went up last night. I got a chance to read it. It was a really cool story. If folks watching this haven't read it yet, it's a really cool story. Anything that stood out to you that like didn't make it into the story, or really just stood out while you're reporting on it?
I tried to get mostly everything. It's funny that you mentioned the Belichick's like aversion to technology. I played around so much with the last chapter. I had a lead of the last chapter with that at first, and then I ended up scrapping it. But from the actual reporting of the story, what stood out, I guess, was I think in the beginning there was his friends and former teammates and former classmates at Tufts were open to talking to me. I started reporting this, honestly, a couple months ago. And I didn't do it consistently. I was busy with the beat, so I did it when I had time. But as we got further and further along, I felt like people were less receptive to talking. I feel like there was, maybe I'm just getting in my own head, but they got kind of closed off at the end. So, to me, as I reported it and people would talk to me less frequently, I became convinced that this person was of some importance in the Patriots player personnel department, because it seemed that people were getting told not to talk.
There it is again, the Patriots' mystique of like not letting anyone talk. It's like, is this me? Is Belichick responsible? Is he pulling on the strings? Anything else you wanted to add?
No, not unless you want to. Not on this story. Not unless you want to talk some Titans too while we're here. I don't know if you.
We got a whole week of that.
Yeah, we
whole week of that coming up.
It might be tough to stretch out Titans over 5 days. Not the most compelling team, but you got to give them credit for that fourth quarter comeback. I mean, they looked pretty good in that game. I think they've had a pretty uneven season, and I would say they did not meet what their expectations were, but I thought they played pretty well in that game.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I'm sure Sean Harrington is somewhere behind the scenes crunching all the data from that game. Kevin, thanks for checking in with us this morning. And again, if you haven't read the story, it was Sean. The Patriots won't tell us who Sean Harrington is, and Kevin Duffy does his very best to try and tell us who he is. Make sure to check it out on MassLive.com or follow us on MassLive.com /MassLive.